Today we have the great pleasure of having Tom Swanson. He is the new Executive Director of Citywide GIS for New York at the Office of Technology and Innovation, OTI, a new acronym I think I have to learn. Prior to his new position, he was a Deputy GIO, Chief Geographic Information Officer, and then shifted to a Deputy CIO role at the City of Philadelphia. In these roles, Tom oversaw and supported many projects to modernize, improve security, and make city systems more resilient. He led the development of a data sharing platform, DataBridge, that standardizes and provides governance to many data sets and are shared internally and within the public. He also oversaw the development of Philadelphia's Address Information System, AIS, which supports applications that require geocoding or an address lookup. Most notable is the Atlas, which provides a comprehensive view of information on a property from many city systems. Tom lived in New York City before moving to Philadelphia and has experience working with many New York City agencies as an Esri solutions engineer. So throughout his career, Tom has pursued a passion for GIS and data-driven problem solving. He has a master's degree in GIS from the University of Minnesota. I'm just adding a little personal touch, Tom. So the fun fact, when he came back, I said, wait, he may have other big projects, but he actually helped me set up our GIS system ADC, right? So it's like Tom truly understands why ADC. So with that, now you get to bigger, better things for the entire, from EDC to entire city of New York, and with GISMO today. Thank you. So Tom, I turn this over.
Wow, thank you, everyone. That was actually harder to write than the whole presentation. It's good to be here. I recognize so many of you. I can't, I'm looking forward to getting to know everybody on this. Yeah, it's been a very interesting journey coming into this role. Having worked, I believe I presented even to this group, and then I was a member here for a number of years, probably 2010 to 2014. I really enjoyed that, but I got an opportunity to go to Philadelphia and actually, get my hands dirty and do the work of a city. And that's, I don't know why I have that problem, but I can't help it. So I guess I'll switch to, the other thing I can't help is I'm doing a slide. So I'm going to switch to slides, and then I'm not going to be able to see everybody, which is going to annoy me, but here we go. Are we good?
Yes.
Oh yeah, I can still see some people. So yes, I have an executive director title. First day I showed up, there was a shift in leadership at Do It. So we have a new chief technology officer, and there's a lot of things that I'm trying to learn and understand, and this is kind of my first time kind of out in the public talking, and I still feel like I have a lot to learn, but I'm gonna sort of go over some of the things that we've been doing. And part of that I want to say, when I say we, is I want to call out Chris Rado. I think you're on the call. I think everybody knows him, but Chris, could you just quickly introduce yourself? He's the director here as well, and we're kind of partners on a lot of this.
Yeah, sure. So yes, I think I was a GISMO member a long time ago too, back in the free sandwich days. So they said there was no free lunch, right? But there was at GISMO. So yeah, so I'm just here for the sandwiches. No, I started working for the city with Department of City Planning back in 2004 and worked there till 2013, and then came over to Do It to manage the citywide street centerline data set, which Tom's going to mention briefly today. So that's kind of mainly what I've been doing at Do It, is riding drag and herding in the loose steers of data and making sure that we don't lose any of them. That's kind of what I've been doing. And so yeah. I mean, I've met a lot of you already, and yeah, I'm looking forward to being able to be more involved in city GIS stuff these days.
Good. Yeah, thanks, Chris. And so, yeah, I mean, I want to kind of go over a few things that we were doing, but hopefully the takeaway is Chris and I are here. We're available. We want to talk to you. We want to hear from you. Hopefully some good, but we know there's frustrations and challenges as well. And so you know, we're part of the community, and we're trying to figure out how best to support GIS from a central IT agency. And part of, you know, my role in the last 3 years, I wasn't doing GIS. I was doing mostly infrastructure. You know, go ahead, Alan. Sorry, I saw your hand go up. But I was doing a lot of non-GIS projects, but really understanding the role of a central IT organization within a city government, and also reeling from security challenges and issues and ransomware attacks and how that affected everything. And a lot of what I'll probably be bringing is kind of that perspective as well, not just the GIS perspective on things. But with that said, when I rolled in kind of day one, there had been a contract with Esri that was set up last year with the group, and we have 5 years of licensing to do what we need to do, and 2 years of professional services that we're working on with them. And you know, I feel like I never get to do any of the fun stuff. All I'm doing is retiring in old infrastructure, getting rid of legacy stuff. But you know, that's what it is. And you know, we're not special in this, but we are really, you know, initially now having to focus on making sure we are protecting the city, not having infrastructure that's old that exposes us. And that's a lot of the work that's going on. So how do we do that? One of those is utilize Arcgis Online is going to be one of the key directions that we're going to be able to do that. Get as much of the information and data available and supported and synced into Arcgis Online, and make that data available from a development standpoint to replace applications, but also making the data available and utilize that platform. It's something that I did in Philadelphia. We got rid of pretty much all of our servers, utilized Arcgis Online as much as possible, and we had a ton of success there. That platform supports, you know, numerous applications. It gets, you know, I think it's like 800,000 hits a day. And I was telling Steve earlier when I got on the call and I was talking to him and comparing Philadelphia to New York, and a lot of this stuff is the same. You know, the data sets, how a city works, but everything is like 10 times bigger here. And I'm not kidding. That's not exaggeration. That is the mark. When I say how many more staff are here, how much more is an app going to get used? Every benchmark I've seen, it's about 10 times. Part of just the IT pattern that's occurring everywhere is also minimizing on-premises footprint. So what that means is using cloud. And so where we can't use SaaS, software as a service, like Arcgis Online, we're going to be trying to utilize cloud as much as possible. That leads into the next point around design for resilience and massive scaling. There's, you know, special needs in New York that I've never seen in terms of, you know, how much an app will get used, especially with Vaccine Finder. That's one application that we've been dealing with quite a bit. And the spikes that you can see on that are, you know, way past anything I've ever dealt with. And, you know, it's hard to do that with on-prem infrastructure. And so, you know, utilizing cloud to meet those needs, but at the same time being very conscious about really good architecture and design so that systems will go down. And we have to have other places to utilize when that happens. And I think everybody, you know, on this call understands those sorts of challenges and issues. Just on the fun side a little bit more, one of the things that I'm very passionate about and, you know, kind of brought to Philadelphia too was, you know, I think it's important that everyone who interacts with the city of New York application that has a map has a very consistent look and feel and experience. And part of that is the base map that we use. And how can we have, you know, as few base maps as possible? There's going to be, you know, just take like you know, the tax base map that has a special look and feel. There's nothing you can do about that. But how can you have a base map that is great, represents a city, has all the details, also helps with a lot of the operational work, right? If you're out in the field, I'm dealing with the 311 team of like, hey, we need parks and we need features on those maps. How can we get all that onto the base map? So that's one of the things that we're going to be doing sooner rather than later, is really focusing on delivering that and supporting any application development that we do. Along with that is also all the orthos, right, that we have. Orthos going back to 1924, I think is that. Part of that consistency is we've identified like 10 or 12 Finder apps, vaccine finder, food finder. I think there's maybe a better name for that, but those are some key ones right now. Right now, they're all written individually. And I can tell you, like, this is sort of a common pattern. It's not unique to New York. We, in Philadelphia, we have a Finder template, and very successful and very, heavily used. And it's something that we can, we were able to, over a course of a couple of days, spin a new application because we had that in our back pocket. And so we're going to try to do that same pattern here, make it great, make it perform really well. Focus on, people who have low bandwidth and not the best device in the world, right? That's the target audience, not me sitting at my desk here. So really pushing on that and trying to get that out this year. And then this last bullet is, kind of goes along with the getting rid of legacy environments. We have to kind of update things, including GeoClient, and try to find better, more solutions for people who have needs around geocoding. Geocoding is such a core, essential part of being a city and supporting applications within the city. So, yeah, that's kind of the big overview. I do want to also kind of jump over and a little bit of plug if people are interested at some point in time. Here's some really key data sets that are supported. A lot of this is Chris. The first thing I'll point out about this is the amount of work engaging with vendors and doing contracts to do this is, if you wouldn't be a surprise if you work in the city, but this is a lot of work. It is very challenging. You have to have a lot of patience, and I give Chris a ton of credit for that. But this is exciting. This is the stuff that, this is GIS. There's so much more, and I know everybody knows more, but like these, the CSCL data, building footprints, planimetrics, those data layers are so key to all, foundational in terms of how city operates and the data sets that we use. And, we work with some departments. Some of this we support ourselves, and it's about 90 layers. Part of that is our goal is to get that out into Arcgis Online, make it available there from a development standpoint. These other ones get, LiDAR, they're a little more interesting. I could spend a lot of time talking about LiDAR. I don't know if we can capture this URL, if you can type it in, or I'm sure I can make this available PDF, but if you want to learn more, there's a great presentation. I believe, Chris, you put that together out there on this. Most of you know about the orthos that go all the way back to 1924 is what I think I looked up. And then, oblique. So you've got ortho, oblique, cyclomedia. Oblique's been around a while. Cyclomedia is it's like Street View, but it's in, I guess the word I would use, intelligent, right? Is that we can digitize features and things from it. We can measure behind it. I have a long history of that type of technology, big fan of it. One of the applications I'd love to have here, and something we did in Philadelphia, is looking at it in a map and having all three perspectives sync together and being able to see a property from all three views, I think would be great. How am I doing on time, Jen?
Oh, I think we can take 3 slides.
Okay, I'll run through quick. Okay. I thought it was going to be short, and then I got all excited about talking about this stuff. It's been a while, so.
It's infectious.
So just it's a quick journey here. So this is a poster I kept in my office. I have a visceral reaction to it. This is what I call data spaghetti. It's a real project of a key data set in an unnamed city of all the data flows and processes around it. And this has kind of been my like inspiration for what we're doing here, and just kind of as much as I want to talk abstractly, I kind of want to also be specific of kind of what we're doing here and what we're trying to do. And I really like this. And at some point I want to figure out what to put in the middle of this, right? I really like this idea on the left of this kind of chaos, and then how do you make chaos kind of, very understandable, very streamlined. And so kind of what I'm working on in terms of with the whole group is this idea of what to put in the middle of that. And this is kind of how I kind of view things, and I've been putting forth and trying to kind of keep this really quick. Most of us in GIS, and I think most cities and counties, it's very common to have what's on the left here, where you have your source, your ETLs, and your production environment. Generally, that was an SDE, Esri database, and everybody would share their data into it, not for any other reason than generally you couldn't afford to have extra, servers and databases. And it worked out to be kind of a nice way where everyone could share their data out. And what that does is it kind of centralizes and given a process and a community around managing the data. And so we kind of don't have that model here. And I've initiated, a request to build that here and talk about that for the data sets at least we manage and we have responsibility for, because I don't want to start loading things into Arcgis Online without a process to maintain and manage them. And so, that concept of production versus publication, because, in the production environment, a lot of places did this and, made it really hard to deal with, is people would build apps straight off that production environment and things that go out to public. And that's kind of a no-no, where this production environment just sort of sits there with the data and you replicate it out to a publication environment. So whoever's interacting with it, it's updated, but it's abstracted from that process. And now developers, they don't have to worry about the backend. They don't care. It's just an API for them to develop and or extract the data, download, do the visualizations, do whatever they need. And this is the high level concept that I'm starting to work around in terms of setting a foundation of how we're able to kind of support data workflows and the application development and think about what are the needs out there. And that all said, the first thing that I, told my team when I kind of got here is, we don't exist for our own edification. We have to be thinking of what this means and how we support and how does this help the mission of the department? How does this help the user out in the public that needs information, needs to find out something from an application? So with that, I am open for questions.
So thank you. But folks can put your questions up in the chat, or we can quickly have a few minutes. I do want to share, and we'll also have time at the end for questions too, because I have a couple of things I want to really shine some lights on folks' work here in the audience. But first, maybe a question or two from the audience. Oh, there's questions in the chat.
All right, I might as well ask the question then, Tom.
I was just going to say, I don't have any questions. I just want to make a statement. I'm Mike Wiley with Timmons Group. I've been around New York City for 20 years, 4 different companies, but for the last 5 years, I've been working outside of New York City. So what I want to say is that I think New York's very lucky to actually recruit almost anyone into this position, but especially Tom. We're seeing this. I'm doing a lot of work in Pacific Northwest, California, Texas, the Southeast, and we have the same problems. Can't hire people. The public sector is having a big problem hiring qualified staff. So I think it's a great coup that we're able to get Mr. Swanson here. But I have no questions.
Mike.
I was going to say something along those lines. It's really good to have somebody who knows the business like you do, actually running it for New York City. We haven't really had it. It's been very piecemeal. I mean, I'm not even a techie, but I know about it and support it. And it's really, lots of us who really aren't hands-on have really been very strong advocates, and we knew that leadership is missing. So I agree with Mike. We've been around each other for a lot of years too. And I think many of us feel the same way, that finally makes GIS something that's significant to the fathers and mothers of New York City by hiring you. That's a great thing. Thank you.
Thanks, Wendy. Al,
Thanks, Wendy.
last comment before we move to the next item.
Oh, it was just a quick question about, as we're finding out, there are maybe 25 different GIS directors in all the different city agencies. And I'm just wondering if you've thought through how you want to collaborate with them, bring them together and get a sort of a joint agenda going.
So there's already a good community and a monthly call. I think, Josh, you're on here. Yeah, you've kind of been leading
Yes.
that. I think that is the core of that, is how do we expand and support that group much more and build off of that. That was sort of my experience, in Philadelphia, is that was formalized much more in terms of the presentations and the communications coming through that group and how that got filtered down to everyone. And it was a family. We argued and we got along, and we figured out and did a lot of good things.
So I just have to say, if there's if that drawing from an architect, with using my background in architecture for a second, your agency 1, agency 2, that got my attention, because that looks like condos for people to take on agency for project development. So yes, thank you, Tom. I want a sandbox. So I'm in on behalf of EDC.
Right.
So thank you
We'll
so
figure that
much.
out.
New sandbox. Thank you.